What's going on all of a sudden? Aren't you on a business trip? I'm kind of busy, so I'm gonna hang up. Wait a minute. Is there something else? You're at home today, right? Yeah. And you're coming back tomorrow, right? Yes. All right then. See you. The call ended. I felt a bit cold, but I wasn't pessimistic. I was actually planning to return from my business trip a day early. Today was my husband's birthday, and I wanted to surprise him with a celebration. But when I got home, a shocking scene awaited me. Huh? Is someone here? While I was pondering this, I could hear voices coming from the living room. And not just any voices. My heart was pounding, echoing through me. I approached the door step by step, slowly. I took a deep breath and peeked through the gap in the door. Why? In the living room, my husband and my best friend were embracing on the sofa. Seeing them in each other's arms, I couldn't leave. The expressions he never showed me, the words he never said, all of it was suffocating me. I will never forgive this. The feeling of worthlessness was soon replaced by immense anger. I took out my smartphone from my bag and recorded a video of them through the gap in the door. Of course, I didn't stop there. I immediately sent the video to someone. That person was my best friend's husband. They're doing this. That's unbelievable. I could feel the same anger and helplessness in his voice, even over the phone. But what should we do? They haven't noticed us yet. So, maybe. I suggested something to my best friend's husband. He accepted the proposal, and we started our plan. As a result, what awaited my husband and the others was hell. My name is Nancy, and I'm 27 years old, working as a salesperson. It wasn't a job I started out loving, but now I find it fulfilling every day. I switched careers to this job, and my trainer back then was the man who would later become my husband, Harry. How's it going? Getting used to the job? Yes. Thanks to you, I've learned a lot. That's good. Looks like you'll be ready to go on sales calls by next week. Yes, I will. Don't worry. I'll be accompanying you at first. Harry was always kind in teaching me the job, and it was natural for me to be drawn to him. After work, he often took me out for drinks, making me look forward to going to the office every day. Harry seemed to like me too, and about 6 months after I changed jobs, he confessed his feelings to me. Looking forward to being with you. Me too. Well, at work, since we're colleagues, we'll need to keep it formal, but feel free to speak casually otherwise. Yeah. I hadn't had much experience with relationships before, so sometimes I wondered if I was good enough for someone like me. But he accepted me for who I was. That's why I placed immense trust in Harry. Another 6 months passed, and a new truth came to light. What's with the formality all of a sudden? Oh, how should I say this? Harry looked unusually weak, something I couldn't have imagined from his usual self. I'll listen properly, okay? Thank you. What Harry told me next was beyond my imagination. Actually, Nancy, you're the first woman I've ever been in a relationship with. What? Really? You didn't seem like it. I've been managing to cover it up until now. Harry said this with a shy look, which made him appear really adorable. I wondered why such a great guy had never had a girlfriend before, but I thought it would be rude to ask and kept it to myself. 2 months later, on my birthday, Harry proposed to me. Of course, I accepted immediately. Here, this is for you. Thank you. It was a ring adorned with a small diamond. Overwhelmed with joy, I hugged Harry. Are you happy? Of course I am. I'm so happy. After that, we rented a new apartment and moved in together. We officially became husband and wife, starting our new life. That's when I got a call from my high school best friend, Adriana. Why didn't you tell me? About what? Not about what. About your marriage. Oh. Right. I had told Adriana about our relationship, but I hadn't informed her about our marriage. Sorry. We've been busy with finding a new place and all. That's okay. Can I come over to visit sometime? Sure, but... And I've got something I want to tell you, too. Okay, got it. From past experience, I knew that when Adriana said something like this, it usually wasn't good news. I mentioned this to Harry. My best friend wants to come over, is that okay? Of course. Thank you. A week later, Adriana came over. I went to the door as the intercom rang. When I opened it, there were two people standing there. Well? This is Hugo, my fiancé. What? I exclaimed so loudly it seemed to echo throughout the house. Hearing this, Harry came over. What's wrong? That was quite a shout. It's okay, don't worry. Then Harry noticed something. Huh? Why is Hugo here? Harry! What? Do you two know each other? More like, we're colleagues at work and friends. It took me a moment to process all this new information. I never imagined that my best friend's fiancé would be Harry's coworker. Wow. What? It's not often that partners or friends know each other, right? Well, yeah, that's true. Adriana was visibly excited, her eyes sparkling like a child who had found something rare. Anyway, I invited them into the living room, and we started chatting. The confusion settled, and we shared stories about how we met. And just before they left. Hey! Since we're all here, why don't we exchange contact information? Contact information? It's fate, right? Why not? So, Nancy and Hugo, Harry and Adriana exchanged phone numbers. Adriana sure is a lively person, isn't she? Yeah, she's always been like that. Got me into a lot of trouble back in the day. But you looked like you were having fun. Do I? Soon after, Adriana also got married. This meant more involvement with our close friends as couples. But then, Harry's behavior began to change. I first noticed it one day when he came home from work. Why didn't you answer your phone? Huh? You called? And have you been drinking? The smell of alcohol wafted around Harry as he spoke. Yeah. Hugo invited me for drinks after work. Just stopped by his place. Why didn't you tell me? Sorry. I meant to call. I thought maybe it was a one-time thing. But what if it happened every other day? Indeed, he started going out more on weekends. This was the beginning of the cracks in our marriage. I also introduced Harry to a chiropractor I used to visit because he complained about back pain. He was tall and had a severe hunchback. But when he came back from the chiropractor, he looked remarkably better. You look different. Do I? But I do feel lighter. You definitely look more handsome. Thanks. I was amazed how much of a difference just straightening his back made. And his face seemed to have regained some vitality too. It was when Harry started going to the chiropractor regularly and I accompanied him once. In the treatment room, I had an unexpected reunion. Could it be Michelle? Nancy, is that you? Why are you here? I transferred here from another place. Oh, I see. Michelle was another good friend of mine, like Adriana. We were all in high school together, but she moved away in our sophomore year due to family reasons. It's been since high school, hasn't it? Yeah. I never thought we'd meet here. Me neither. Michelle's massage skills were impressive. It was clear she had a lot of experience. Be sure to come back. I will. As I was paying, I noticed Harry, who had finished his treatment earlier, was comfortably chatting with Michelle on the couch. I left the place feeling a bit uneasy. On the way home. Wow, I feel really refreshed today. You do look great. But I wanted to ask you something. What's up? You seemed pretty close with Michelle. What? Nancy, you know her? Well, she's a friend from middle school. Really? Yeah, but I just found out today she works there. Oh, I see. Michelle is your friend. Is something wrong? No, not really. Let's just head home. I'm hungry. Though I had my doubts, I decided not to dwell on it further. As time passed, we might become acquaintances, I thought. Life was relatively peaceful, but Harry's late returns were still the norm. As newlyweds, this was starting to bother me. Isn't it strange you're always this late? What's wrong all of a sudden? We are still newlyweds, you know. Yeah, that's true. He seemed not to grasp the seriousness of the situation. But that wasn't all. It's like it's none of your concern. That's not true. I've been thinking about a lot. Can't help it. A bit early, but... Huh? Harry handed me a small box. It reminded me of the one he had when he proposed. I opened it and found a ring inside. Small but brilliantly shining. But why? You forgot? Day after tomorrow is Nancy's birthday, right? I completely forgot. I've been asking Hugo and others for advice on what to give for your birthday. Yes, I drank and came home late, but it wasn't because I disliked Nancy. Really? Really. Harry gently hugged me after saying that. It was more than enough for me. I felt Harry's love for me anew. After giving me the ring, Harry started coming home earlier and stopped coming back drunk. I really thought everything was finally settled. Months passed and the season changed to a cold winter. On Christmas Eve, we decided to gather at our house. It was Harry and me, Adriana and her husband, and Michelle. After enjoying some drinks and having a great time, Adriana, already feeling good, made a suggestion. Why don't we all go for a walk a bit? That sounds nice. Nancy, what do you think? I think it's a great idea. Then let's go early. We headed to a nearby park. As we got close, the place was crowded with people because of an event. There are so many people here. Indeed. We should stick together so we don't get lost. As we walked towards the park, we quickly got separated. I had left my phone at home since it was only a 10-minute walk. Why do I always forget it at times like this? I pushed through the crowd, looking for Harry and the others. Unable to find anyone, I sat down on a bench at the edge of the park. Where could they be? I heard whispering behind me. Turning around, I saw several trees, like a forest. Squinting, I could make out the shadows of a man and a woman, apparently kissing. Suddenly, someone spoke to me, nearly making my heart jump out of my chest. Nancy? What are you doing here? Oh, Hugo! I got separated and was looking for everyone when I saw you. I see. I glanced back at the forest where I had seen the two people, but they were gone. For now, we decided to head back to the entrance. After waiting about 10 minutes with no sign of the others, we decided to search again. Shall we search again? Yes, let's do that. We went around looking for the other three once more. Oh, do you have your phone? Yes, I do. Oh, right. Why didn't I think of that? Hugo tried calling Harry and Adriana, but neither answered. He had exchanged numbers with Michelle today, so he called her. Michelle answered right away. I took the phone. Michelle? Where are you? Well, near the big tree. And the others? Leave it to me. Wait. The call ended. I told Hugo about the call, and we both puzzledly headed back towards the bench. There, we found the three of them sitting on the bench. You were here all along? We've been looking for you too. Yeah, but we couldn't find you anywhere. While the two of them were saying this, Michelle was silent. Michelle? Is something wrong? No, nothing. Okay. I felt something was off with Michelle's behavior at that time. Afterward, the five of us returned home. Throughout the journey, Michelle was very close to Harry. She made gestures like linking arms with him, and Harry seemed to reciprocate. Seeing their expressions was frustrating for me. When we arrived home, we decided to take a nap until morning. We all ended up sleeping in the living room, with Michelle sleeping close to Harry. We slept until noon the next day. We really overslept, huh? Is something wrong, Adriana? No, why? Well, you just seem a bit grumpy. No, it's nothing. While talking to Adriana, I noticed Michelle laughing at us from the back. Harry was also smiling and chatting with Michelle. After they left, I confronted Harry. That's not true. Why would you think that? Huh? You were grinning the whole time. What are you talking about? You were happily chatting with Michelle. There's nothing wrong with talking. It's not about that. Enough already. This is getting annoying. Where are you going? Anywhere's fine. Harry took his wallet and left. This was the real start of hell. Harry hardly came home, and when he did, we only had brief conversations like work updates. He usually returned when I was asleep. Anticipating this, I waited for him in the living room. What? You're still up? I wanted to talk. Talk? I don't have anything to say. I'm tired, let me sleep. Wait, we can at least talk. Harry got increasingly irritated and did something unthinkable. Hey, what are you doing? What? It's none of your business. Harry had never referred to me in such a way. Stop it, please. Ignoring me, he threw the photographs we took on our trips, which I had cherished since our marriage, into the trash can. Not just that. He also carelessly threw away the engagement ring and other items. As if they were garbage. Stop it! I covered the trash can with my body. Harry kicked the trash can. It wasn't too big, but the impact sent me flying. Why did I even marry a troublesome woman like you? What are you saying? His eyes didn't look kind like Harry's anymore. He seemed like a different person, and I was terrified. Because I was covering the trash can, I felt pain in my abdomen. Seriously, how long are you going to stay like that? You're in the way. Do you realize what you're doing? Yeah, I do. From now on, you're going to listen to what I say, right? That's not going to happen. Harry then went to the bedroom and, unbelievably, went to sleep. Meanwhile, I rubbed my stomach and gathered the memories that were thrown in the trash can. I couldn't put them back in their original place, so I stuffed them into a bag I found nearby. I didn't like storing them this way, but I wanted to avoid them being thrown away again. Of course, I wasn't just going to stand by after this. The next day, I used my lunch break to prepare divorce papers. There was no bright future in staying with Harry. I waited for him to come home. He was late as usual. Arriving past midnight. I'm home. Welcome back. Oh, you're still up? I have something important to talk about. Sit down. Huh? I don't have time for this. Just sit down. Fine. I managed to get him to sit down. We sat facing each other, but Harry was in a bad mood the entire time. I took a deep breath and faced Harry. Here. I handed him the prepared divorce papers. What's this? Divorce papers. Why? After what happened yesterday, this is the only option. I can't take it anymore. Wait a minute. No way. And you're cheating with Michelle, aren't you? What? What are you talking about? You were always so happy talking to her, and you were all lovey-dovey with Michelle. I was convinced that Harry was cheating on me with Michelle. Aren't you misunderstanding something? Sure, we talked, but that's only because she started the conversation. That doesn't mean you're not cheating. Are you serious? Harry seemed unfazed. If you doubt it so much, why don't you ask Michelle? But if you two are in cahoots, asking won't mean anything. All right. Harry started making a phone call. Who are you calling? Just be quiet for a little while. 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Wondering who it could be at this hour, I went to the door. There stood Michelle. Michelle! So that was your phone call earlier. Can I come in? Sure. Now it was me, Harry, and Michelle. I was a bit tense, but I couldn't back down. Can you explain what this is about? I'm a witness that Harry isn't cheating. Right? Yes. Nancy, we're not having an affair. I can't believe this. It's true. Well, actually, never mind. Huh? So I told you, didn't I? We're not in that kind of relationship. If you really can't believe it, suing is an option. But ultimately, it's Nancy who will suffer. Michelle's eyes, looking straight at me, didn't seem to be lying. Maybe I thought so because we had been friends for so long. However, I was still in doubt. Even if what Michelle said was true, the fact that Harry had disregarded what was important to me hadn't changed. Then why did you throw those things in the trash? That was, well, not because I disliked Nancy. I was out of my mind at that moment. Harry stood up and apologized. It almost made me feel like I was the bad one. As I was thinking this, I noticed Michelle looking at me, trying to convey something. I had never seen her so serious before. Please, forgive me. All right. But there won't be a next time. I understand. Since then, we have been having relatively peaceful times, I think. Amidst this, my business trip got scheduled. I'm off, then. It's 3 nights and 4 days, right? Yes. Take care. I left for the business trip. It went smoothly, and I was able to return a day earlier than planned. Returning a day early meant I could celebrate Harry's birthday. I kept my return a surprise. However, since it was Sunday, I would be in trouble if he wasn't home. So I called to check his whereabouts. What's up all of a sudden? Aren't you on a business trip? I'm a bit busy, so I'm gonna hang up. Just wait. Is there something else? You're at home today, right? Yeah. And you're coming back tomorrow, right? Yes. All right then. See ya. The call ended. I felt a bit cold, but I wasn't pessimistic. I was preoccupied with celebrating Harry's birthday. I couldn't buy a big cake, but I bought a small one. I also bought wireless earphones he had wanted as a gift. But when I returned home, a shocking scene awaited me. Is someone here? While pondering, I heard voices from the living room. Not just any voices. My heart was pounding, echoing through me. I slowly approached the door. Taking a deep breath, I peeked through the gap in the door. Why? In the living room, Harry and Adriana were embracing on the sofa. Why are those two together? But that conversation earlier was so funny, wasn't it? Right? It was a masterpiece. And to think she suspected Michelle. Well, thanks to that, we can be together like this. Indeed. So that was what it was all about. After that conversation, they began to passionately love each other again. Watching them, I was so confused that I couldn't move. The expressions they showed each other, the words they exchanged, it all suffocated me. I told myself to calm down and took a deep breath. Then, slowly, anger began to well up inside me. I will never forgive this. I felt ashamed for having doubted Michelle, but forgiving them was not an option for me now. I took out my smartphone from my bag and recorded a video of the two through the gap in the door. But I didn't stop there. I had an idea. I decided to send the video to someone. It was Adriana's husband, Hugo. Did you see the video I just sent? She's doing this. Unbelievable. She's been deceiving me. No, it's worse than that, Harry. I could feel the same anger and helplessness from Hugo over the phone. But what should we do? They haven't noticed us yet. So, maybe. I suggested something to Hugo. He agreed to the plan, and we started our actions. What awaited the husbands was hell. I quietly left the house and waited for Hugo's arrival. Sorry, I'm a bit late. No problem. Are you ready? Of course. We entered the house again. From the living room, we could hear their intimate noises. Peeking through the gap, I felt nauseous. Are you okay? Thank you. I'm fine. Hugo's fists were trembling, perhaps from the force of his grip. By the way, is Hugo okay? Yeah. He's fine. He's quite oblivious. I see. He's good at his job, but he's too serious and boring. That's harsh. It's okay. I'm just using him as much as I can. Unable to bear it anymore, Hugo opened the door and barged in. What the hell are you two doing? Hugo looked like he was about to hit them. He must have wanted to. But he spoke calmly instead. The two were frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. Really, such foolish people. What? Well, I guess I'm part of that too. And weren't you supposed to be on a business trip? I was supposed to be, but I came back a day early to celebrate your birthday. For this, I threw the present and cake I had bought at Harry. What's this? A present for you. Really messed up people. Human trash is what you call people like you. Adriana reacted to those words. What? It's because you're boring. Harry is so much better than you. Hey! Hugo, please calm down. So? What are we going to do now? It's obvious. We're getting a divorce right away. The two seemed not to have considered that seriously. They were showing a look of surprise. If so, they were truly foolish. But wait! What about Michelle? Adriana confronted Harry. What are you talking about? Even last time, you two had a suspicious vibe, right? It was like seeing myself from a little while ago. Call Michelle here. I sensed this was about to turn into a real mess. Adriana thought Harry and Michelle had an affair, but considering what happened before, that seemed unlikely. Harry called Michelle. She arrived here in about 10 minutes. What's going on with everyone? Adriana immediately attacked Michelle. You were having an affair with Harry, weren't you? What? No way. Right? Yes, of course. Then why were you so clingy? Michelle started laughing. Oh, that? Well, what's so funny? Because it's just as I imagined. Huh? My reason for getting close to Harry? It was to draw you out. I couldn't quite grasp what Michelle was saying. What do you mean? We all gathered and I suspected something between the two. I was testing to confirm it. Why didn't you tell me? Because Nancy, you can't hide your feelings. Michelle was right in what she said. If I had been told, I would have been staring at the two of them. But was what I did too meddlesome? Not at all. Well, after doing all this, it might be hard to live a normal life from now on. Oh, right. I have something to ask Michelle. I whispered in Michelle's ear. Ah, I see. Leave it to me. Michelle seems to know things I don't. Then Harry and Adriana reacted. Hey! What are you talking about? Nothing important. Aren't you embarrassed, whispering like that? Not at all. Anyway, you'll probably be hearing from a lawyer later. Look forward to it. That's how it is. Can you two leave now? You're in the way. They hurriedly dressed and left the house together. We who remained sat down at the table and took a breather. I'm so tired. But the hard part is just beginning. It's really headache-inducing. Later, we drank canned beer at the house and commiserated with each other. Hugo and I went to a lawyer's office together afterward. With the video I had filmed, our divorce process seemed straightforward. After the divorce was finalized, Harry contacted me. What the hell did you do? What? Why so sudden? Because of you, I had to quit my job. Really? That's interesting. Don't you care? Well, it's your fault, isn't it? Good luck. We're not done talking. Goodbye. I hung up and sighed. I also called Michelle. Thanks to her, Harry had lost his job. What's up? Thanks to you, Michelle. Harry is jobless now. Good to hear. What else did you say besides the video? Stuff about the walk. Like how the two of them were in the woods that time. Trying to start something in the cold. You know, various things. Seriously? But this will make things easier. How's Adriana? I also asked about Adriana, and it seems she also quit her job. I heard from Hugo that things were even worse than imagined. After the divorce, Harry and Adriana started living together, but they were constantly fighting and struggling financially. Really just fools. Since then, I've been enjoying my single life. Michelle and I continued our friendship. From now on, I will live happily. You miscarried because you weren't careful enough. Christina, haven't you gotten pregnant again since then? I'm sorry. Blamed by Michael and my mother-in-law, I spent my days in a confined world. I never thought I'd be blamed alone for the miscarriage and not having a child afterward. My heart was completely worn down by this marriage. Then 7 years passed. I miraculously became pregnant. I thought I would never have children again. It was like a bolt from the blue. Michael, who was overjoyed, changed his tune. Really? Awesome. Without changing my expression, I calmly said, I want a divorce. What? Shocked, Michael and my mother-in-law faced me as I shouted. I know all about what Michael has been doing. Stop making a fool of me. What Michael had done was unforgivable. My anger blazed unceasingly, burning ever higher. My name is Christina King, 29 years old. I married Michael, my classmate from vocational school, 8 years ago, at 21. We still don't have kids. Currently, I live with Michael, his parents, and my younger sister Marilyn, a high school student. That's 5 of us. The reason for this living arrangement goes back to when I entered vocational school. I've always loved baking. So, after high school, I enrolled in a pastry chef school. Michael, my husband, was a classmate. We got along very well and started dating soon. College life was so much fun. Just before graduation, my parents died in an accident. It was so sudden, I was engulfed in grief. But I couldn't just cry forever. I had my younger sister Marilyn. She was still in elementary school. I had a job lined up at a famous bakery, but thinking about living expenses and Marilyn's tuition weighed heavily on me. The insurance money from my parents' accident had been used up on medical expenses for my sick grandparents. Could I support Marilyn on my starting salary? When I was feeling anxious, Michael was the one who offered me a lifeline. Let's get married and move to the countryside together, with your sister too, he said. Michael was the heir to a traditional confectionery store. He planned to take over the family business after graduation. I intended to marry Christina sooner or later, it just happened sooner than planned. He assured me that once we were married, his family could help with Marilyn's tuition and living expenses. Of course, I had my doubts about accepting such an offer so easily. But Michael firmly said, Christina, you're practically family already, it's only natural to help each other out. His words were so comforting, I cried. I declined my job offer and became part of the Michaels family. Michael's family lived in the countryside. The traditional confectionery shop run by my in-laws, King, is a long-established business dating back 140 years. In the local community, it was a beloved shop known to everyone. My in-laws welcomed me and Marilyn warmly. I felt safe with them. They even promised to support Marilyn's education and living costs. I remember feeling very relieved. But looking back now, I can only think I was ignorant of the world. I had been thinking naively. I had no idea that marrying into this family would change my fate so dramatically. After marrying Michael, I worked at the confectionery daily. Mostly, I helped my mother-in-law with ordering supplies and managing expenses. Only my father-in-law and Michael actually made the confections. During busy times, some male part-timers from a confectionery school would come to help. It's not that I'm dissatisfied with my current job. But I graduated from a patisserie school. Yet, I haven't made a single confection. I want to work in the kitchen too. Even just to help with preparations. When I tell Michael this, he just says, well, maybe someday, avoiding a clear answer. I felt a bit frustrated, but I had no choice but to comply. As time went on, I got pregnant. 4 months in, we found out it was a boy. Michael and my in-laws were overjoyed. I was happy too. One day, when I was feeling uneasy, I started experiencing stomach pains from the morning. I had a bad feeling about it. I rushed to the nearby OBGYN. The doctor, who had been taking care of the King family, was recommended to me by my mother-in-law, and I had been visiting here. The elderly doctor began with, "I'm sorry to say." Then slowly, he announced, "You've had a miscarriage." My mind went blank. Stunned, I underwent the necessary procedures and returned home. Could there be anything more heartbreaking? When Michael asked, "How did it go?" I reported back to him through tears. That's when Michael's attitude changed. "What? You had a miscarriage? Why?" "I don't know. There can be many reasons for a miscarriage, they couldn't pinpoint one." "What? Isn't it because you weren't careful enough?" I was shocked by Michael's angry response. I thought. I was expecting comfort, but his reaction was unexpected. I couldn't believe what he said, and as I stood there dumbfounded. My mother-in-law also arrived upon hearing the commotion. "That's right, Christina. It's a shame, expected a boy, and you miscarried. You've let us down." "I didn't. Don't you know? You're supposed to bear a male heir for the King family. If you can't do that, you have no place here." My mother-in-law said this with a terrifying look and returned to her room. I never expected to be spoken to like this. The shock of the miscarriage and the harsh words left me stunned. It took me a long time to recover. Not a single word of sympathy from Michael or my mother-in-law. Instead, they hurled even more bitter words at me. "Geez, how long are you going to keep that gloomy face? Just forget about it already. If you have time to be down, start thinking about the next child. Make sure a safe delivery of a boy this time." My father-in-law was silent, but it was clear he agreed with them. Their looks towards me became harsher. After the miscarriage, I felt like I was walking on pins and needles in this house. It wasn't my fault I miscarried. The cause was unknown. I explained this over and over, but they insisted it was due to my poor health or behavior. I couldn't believe it. In this day and age, to think such people still exist. Sure, for self-employed families, having an heir might be important. But the King family's obsession was bizarre. I think the gender of the child shouldn't matter, but Michael and his parents were desperate for a boy. Scarily so. However, the real horror was yet to come. After that, I couldn't get pregnant for a while. Each time, Michael and his parents grew colder. "How many months has it been since then, and you're still not pregnant?" "I'm sorry." I was saddened by my mother-in-law's heartless words. She had been so kind at first, but now she had completely changed, a total 180. Michael was the same. He joined in belittling me. A boy or a girl, it should be a precious child. Michael always said, "Make sure you give birth to a boy." He said it was for the sake of the King family's legacy, but it's absurd in this day and age to insist that the heir has to be a boy. That's what I think, but under their cold stares, I often felt down. I have to have a boy. I researched infertility. It can be caused by men too, not just women. With that in mind, I suggested that Michael should also visit the OBGYN with me. But he opposed it fiercely. "Why should I go to an OBGYN? It's your fault we can't have kids." Michael and his parents seemed to think it was my fault. Disappointed, I fell back into a gloomy routine. The only time I felt at peace was when I was with Marilyn. With no parents, I'm practically a parent to her. After work, I'd listen to her school stories every day. Sometimes I'd help her with homework or play with her. Marilyn always looked up to me, calling me big sister. She came to a strange land with me, never complained, and tried her best to adapt. Marilyn was my emotional support. On the other hand, my in-laws' attitude remained the same. I had suggested infertility treatments like in vitro fertilization, but they just gave me suspicious looks. To get pregnant through such a mechanical method is unacceptable. It must be a natural pregnancy, no less. That's my mother-in-law's catchphrase. The family that runs the traditional shop, which had been passed down through generations for a long time, but the people of the King family had outdated ways of thinking. I sighed. It's too unfair to blame me alone for not having a child. I even consulted with the OBGYN. But the doctor, who's been with the King family for a long time, shared a similar view to my mother-in-law. We are strictly aiming for natural conception. We don't do in vitro fertilization, so you'll have to go to a city hospital for that. The city hospitals are too far to realistically go from here. I'm at a dead end. Unexpected stress started affecting my body. I began to experience irregular menstrual cycles, making it even harder to conceive. Then, one day it happened. I was about to go to sleep and looked at the clock. It was 11 p.m. Michael must be coming home late again. A few times a week, he comes home late. Because of preparations for the next day. I was told to go to bed first, so I had already gone to my bedroom. That night, I went to bed early. But for some reason, I couldn't fall asleep. I got up to drink some water. And passed by the living room. That's when I heard it. Michael and my mother-in-law's voices. They were back. I was about to say something, but I stopped in my tracks. What they were talking about was unimaginable. You're late. Can't help it, she wouldn't give it back. She kept asking when I'd leave my wife. I told her I'd think about it if she had a boy. Just a routine task for me to plant my seed in other women, but they take it seriously, annoying really. I had hopes when she got pregnant last time. A girl was a disappointment. Well, if it doesn't work out, we'll look for someone else. Yeah. The Kings need a boy, not a girl. And since she miscarried the boy, and hasn't been pregnant since. If she gives birth to a boy, you should leave Christina. Of course. I couldn't understand what they were talking about. It seemed from the conversation that Michael was cheating. And he was nonchalantly talking about his mistress being pregnant with a girl. I felt my legs shaking. Is this a dream? They both wanted a boy. To the extent of cheating, or rather, treating it like a task. I was so shocked, I had to leave the spot. They were secretly trying to have a child with another woman, behind my back. Both kept saying it was for the King family, but that's just an affair. Unbelievable. Do they want a boy that badly? That's when it hit me. The part-time workers dispatched from the confectionery school were always boys. There should be many women aspiring to be pastry chefs, yet they never hire women. I casually decided to ask. Why do they only accept men? Of course, I couldn't ask anyone from the King family directly. I decided to ask a boy who helps out at the shop. A student from the confectionery school who works the most during his long holidays. Hey, only boys come to help out here, right? Don't girls like this place? I asked nonchalantly, and the boy answered straightforwardly. Not at all. There are plenty of girls in my class who want to work at the Kings. But the job listings at school are for males only. Really? Didn't you know? Oh, right, Christina, you're not originally from here. This shop doesn't allow women in the kitchen. The Kings are quite traditional, believe in customs and all. The boy seemed to regret speaking too much and clammed up. But I pressed on. What customs? Tell me. He reluctantly shared. The Kings had always been succeeded by men. A few generations back, there was a time when no male heir was born, and a woman had to work in the kitchen. But for some unknown reason, the taste and popularity declined, and the King's business suffered. They ended up in massive debt. However, a miracle boy was born later and took over, turning the business around. Since then, there's been a superstition in the King family that if women make confectionaries, the business will fail. That's why women are no longer allowed in the kitchen. Even the part-time help positions were exclusively for men. The locals seemed to know about the King family's customs through word of mouth. So that was it. I finally understood. Michael never let me work in the kitchen. His parents' abnormal desire for a male heir. That's why they turned cold towards me after I miscarried the boy. And then that night's conversation. Desperately trying to have a boy with a woman who wasn't his wife. But isn't that an unethical act? Being unfaithful over some silly superstition. And it seemed like he planned to leave me if the mistress gave birth to a boy. What do they think of people? Treating women as mere tools for childbirth, I was trembling with anger. I wanted nothing more than to leave this house, to divorce. But there was Marilyn. Since I relied on the Kings for her tuition and living expenses, I couldn't divorce until she graduated high school. I had to endure until Marilyn's graduation. But just enduring wasn't enough. I began plotting my revenge against Michael and his parents. Time passed. Years went by, and I was now 29. I had a plan. For it, I needed to make the Kings as famous as possible. I started actively promoting the Kings on social media. Slowly, their popularity grew, and eventually, they became a nationally known store. Though an old establishment, the Kings had been only a local famous shop. Now, they were a household name, featured on TV and in magazines. Michael and my mother-in-law were happy with my work. They were still cold about not having a male child, but my success with social media and boosting the store's business had secured my place in the family. The plan was working. But I was hesitant to execute it. I owed the Kings one thing: they paid for Marilyn's tuition. But Marilyn was about to graduate. She was acquiring medical qualifications while in school. So, Marilyn had already secured a job as a medical office assistant at a small clinic. I'm glad you got the job offer. But you chose a hospital quite far away, huh? Marilyn answered with a somewhat somber expression. Yeah. I wanted to be far away from here. You mean? Sorry, sis. I'm grateful to the Kings for providing for my living expenses and high school tuition. But Marilyn hesitated. When I pressed her for more information, I learned something shocking. Apparently, Michael had tried to assault Marilyn. He said things like, "Christina can't have kids, so you have to fulfill the duty, or I'm paying for your tuition, so pay me back with your body." Thankfully, he was drunk at the time, and she managed to resist and avoid it, but the next day, he warned her, "Don't tell anyone about last night." I felt dizzy. Marilyn had kept quiet about it, considering my position. She had long known I was being blamed by them due to my infertility. Finally, when I graduate high school, we can get away from the Kings. You don't have to stay here and suffer because of me. I'm sorry for making you endure all this. Marilyn spoke through tears. No, I should apologize for putting you through this. If I had seen Michael's true nature earlier. I apologized to Marilyn, crying. Unforgivable. A fierce flame of anger rose within me. It was one thing for them to involve me, but to involve Marilyn too. The Kings used the fact that they were paying for tuition and living expenses to torment us. I had been thankful and grateful when they said they would take care of Marilyn. But now, it felt like they had said it just to tie me to the Kings. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to divorce immediately. And I had to carry out my plan. That's when I decided. But then, something unexpected happened. I couldn't believe it and asked the doctor repeatedly. I was pregnant. Ever since I found out about Michael's infidelity, being intimate with him was a torment. But if I refused, he would verbally abuse me. I had no choice but to comply. And for 7 years, stress had caused me to have irregular menstrual cycles. I thought I couldn't have children, but the irony was that the moment I decided to divorce, I got pregnant. But my decision remained unchanged. I resolved to announce my pregnancy. Michael was surprised, then delighted. He suddenly started praising me. Wow, pregnant! That's great! What's the gender? Tell me quickly. It's too early to know, it's still the beginning. That's right. We can't be sure yet. It has to be a boy. It seemed my mother-in-law had been listening to the conversation. That's right. Let me know as soon as you find out. They were as selfish as ever. Without changing my expression, I said calmly, I want a divorce. What? Michael and my mother-in-law were shocked. I glared at them and let it all out. I know Michael has been cheating for years. No matter how desperate you are to have a boy, it's not excusable. Stop making a fool of me. I have solid proof of your infidelity. After that, I followed Michael when he came home late. He was indeed visiting another woman's house. She seemed to be a high school classmate of Michael's, who had always admired the prestigious King family. It must have been easy for Michael to seduce such a woman. I captured several photos of them together, looking intimate. When I showed the evidence, Michael was taken aback. But he quickly retorted. What are you talking about? This isn't cheating. It's all because you couldn't give birth to a boy. I had no choice but to find another woman to preserve the Kings. Really? And assaulting Marilyn was also unavoidable? Well, that. Michael was at a loss for words. He must have felt guilty. But then my mother-in-law sighed. Her following words were horrifying. Oh, what do you think we took your sister for? If you couldn't do it, we expected Marilyn to fulfill the duty. Anyone will do, as long as they can give birth to a boy. Being able to bear a male child is the only condition to stay in the King family. You worked hard on the social media promotion for us, maybe out of guilt for not having a child. Well, the store became famous because of it, and we appreciate that. But if you can't have a boy, you have no right to be here. Understand? Do these people have no human heart? They saw Marilyn as just a backup plan for me. All they care about is preserving the Kings. I don't understand at all. Is the family so important that you'll hurt our hearts for it? Unbelievable. I can't stay in this absurd, nonsensical family any longer. When I shouted, my mother-in-law made a bitter face. On the contrary, Michael snorted. People outside the King family will never understand, Christina. That's all you were. If you want to divorce that much, fine. But, he said if it's a boy, he wants the child. He doesn't need a girl. How can he speak about his own child like this? I never thought they could be so cold. They seemed like a family crazed with superstitions. I had no choice but to agree to these terms. In return, if the child is a girl, they have to promise never to involve themselves with me again. And so, I was finally able to divorce Michael. On the day I left the King family, I was packing my things. Marilyn had already moved to an apartment rented by her employer. It was too dangerous to stay in the King household any longer. While I was packing, Michael appeared. Hey, isn't it time to find out the baby's gender? Go to the hospital quickly. Even at this time, he's worried about that. I despised him. But I wouldn't have to come here anymore. As a final goodbye, I went to the usual OBGYN. The elderly doctor quickly diagnosed, it's a girl. Their faces, when I told them, were as if to say, see, I knew it. They seemed to have completely lost interest in me. But I didn't care anymore. What these people think doesn't matter. I just wanted to leave the house as soon as possible. This long but short marriage was over. I felt relieved as if a burden had been lifted. But there was still one last thing to do. I updated the King's social media account. And then I left the King house. Afterward, I stayed with Marilyn for a while. Just to be safe, I had informed her workplace that I would be living with her. The clinic director, knowing our situation of having no parents, readily agreed to let me stay. I was grateful for that. Then one day, my phone vibrated intensely several times. It was an angry call from Michael. "Hey, Christina. What have you done?" I knew the reason for his anger. The last post I updated detailed all the wrongdoings of the kings, their detestable customs and Michael's cheating habits. It spread everywhere, appearing in all sorts of media. As the kings had become a famous store, they were featured prominently on TV news and the internet. They were being bashed relentlessly. If it had been just a small countryside confectionery, it wouldn't have blown up this big. I had ostensibly worked on social media to make the kings more prosperous and famous. But my true intention was different. If you're to drop someone down from a mountain to the valley, it's better to make the fall from the highest, all at once. That's why I raised the king's fame. I successfully marketed them into a fame unusual for a countryside confectionery. When the time was ripe, I dropped the bomb. "I thought we agreed you wouldn't involve yourself with me anymore," I retorted calmly. "Yeah, but..." "Stop being deluded by silly superstitions and treating people like fools with your outdated thinking. You're scum. Get bashed by the public and reflect on your ridiculous actions," I said forcefully and hung up the phone. Shortly after, I went into labor. Fortunately, the clinic where Marilyn worked was an OB/GYN, so I had been attending there. And when I gave birth, it turned out to be a boy. The diagnosis of the country doctor was wrong. Apparently, it's possible to mistake a girl for a boy due to the position of the umbilical cord. But the doctor chuckled. Normally, it's clear enough not to make such a mistake. That doctor was the longtime physician for the King family. Perhaps after years of accommodating the kings, his skills had dulled? I thought so, feeling fortunate amidst the misfortune. Anyway, if the kings knew this child was a boy, they would do anything to take him back. I decided to keep silent. The baby's name is Ray. I chose a gender-neutral name for Ray, just in case the kings ever found out. Ray grew up blissfully unaware of the adults' issues. Meanwhile, the scandal of the kings didn't die down. Their thoroughly outdated custom of excluding women. Michael's numerous affairs, all excused by succession. These became perfect fodder for a scandal-hungry public. The rumors about the kings were wildly and fiercely spread. Their reputation affected their business significantly. Their regular corporate customers from hotels and inns started canceling one after another. And the number of walk-in customers decreased. Gradually, their business went into debt. And eventually went bankrupt. Michael and his parents now apparently live in a small apartment. To cover the debts, they had to sell their house and store. Shocked by their downfall, Michael's parents fell ill. Michael now spends his days caring for them. And of course, being looked down upon by the locals, but also the relentless bashing on social media by strangers. Their names, photos, and even their address were exposed online. They've had endless troubles like graffiti on their house and stones thrown at them. To me, it was all their own doing. A family that believed in outdated superstitions and dehumanized people. No matter how famous their confectionery was, who would want to eat it knowing the people behind it lacked any compassion? Watching Ray play with his toys, I thought about it. Here was the boy the kings had so desperately wanted. It's ironic that they went bankrupt after a boy was finally born. Captured by their own agenda, they lost sight of what it means to be human. Ray looked at me curiously. I decided to stop thinking about them. My revenge was over. It was time to use my time for myself. I made up my mind to pursue something I had been envisioning. As time passed, Ray entered elementary school. At the same time, I decided to rent an apartment. I couldn't keep staying in Marilyn's workplace apartment forever. Besides, I had received a substantial amount of money. I had become a pastry chef, making my own cakes. I rented a small shop to sell them. At first, they didn't sell much, but gradually they became popular through word of mouth. From there, corporate customers like nearby hotels started increasing, and my business got on track. That's why I was able to plan for renting an apartment to live with Ray. I was so happy to be working as a pastry chef again. After all, I hadn't made sweets for a while since marrying into the Kings. But when I made sweets again and saw Ray's smile, my old passion was rekindled. I wanted to make my own sweets again. To see the smiles of people eating them. That was my original starting point. I remembered that. Imagining the smiles of those who eat my creations. That gives me more strength than anything. I may not become as famous as the Kings, but that's okay. If I put my heart and soul into it, those who eat it, and everyone around them, will surely smile. Ray and Marilyn enjoy the sweets I make with delight. Just that alone makes my heart feel fulfilled. Despite everything, I am very happy now. I can say that from the bottom of my heart, and I can't help but smile. You know, you're younger and nicer. Oh, that's nice to hear. Stick around a little longer. That's what greeted me, tired from my business trip, my husband and my sister talking like that. After mocking me, I started hearing unpleasant voices. For a moment, I thought about barging in and yelling at them. But I quickly regained my composure and pulled out my smartphone. Then, I slightly opened the bedroom door and recorded decisive evidence. They were so engrossed they didn't notice. I can't believe they underestimated me like this. I'll never forgive this. I've been made a fool of to this extent. No need for mercy. I sent the evidence I recorded to Amelia's husband, Asher. All set, we decided to confront them at the scene. Their faces were priceless when they saw us. Ella? What are you doing here? And why's Asher here too? Your sister-in-law told me. At those words, Amelia glared at me. I handed her an envelope. Their faces turned pale when they saw what was inside. I'm Ella Johnson. A 33-year-old working mom, raising a son. I'm not blood related to my parents. My mother was infertile, and they adopted me from a foster home. Ella's such a sweet kid. Yeah, we're so lucky she became our daughter. I'm forever grateful to my parents for accepting me like that. A year after I was adopted, my mother got pregnant with Amelia after fertility treatments. Since then, we were raised as sisters, not related by blood. Ella, what are you planning for your future? Don't hold back on our account. Well, actually, I've got a college in mind. After that, I moved to New York for college. I didn't return to my hometown for a job. Instead, I joined a company in New York. As a result of applying my expertise at work, I've been consistently achieving good results. I've been working hard every day for about 10 years. Hey, Miss Johnson, can I talk to you for a sec? One day, my boss called me in. The discussion was about recommending me for a promotion to department head. I was overjoyed and accepted, then headed back to my desk. You're in a good mood, what's up? Then, my husband, Lucas, approached me. Lucas is younger than me, and there was a time when I was his mentor at work. After the mentoring period, he began pursuing me actively. I fell for you at first sight. Will you go out with me? Swept up by his passion, I agreed to date him. Eventually, we got married after I became pregnant. And then, we had our adorable son. In the beginning, it was tough juggling work and parenting, but with Lucas's help, I started enjoying the busyness. On a day off, I went out with Lucas and our son, Charles. Is that you, sis? Could it be Amelia? At that moment, a young woman approached me. At first, I didn't recognize her, but then I realized it was Amelia. Hey Lucas, long time no see. It's been a while, hasn't it, Amelia? Are you all out as a family? That's nice, I wish I could join. Amelia's words made me internally groan. We came here to shop for our son today. If Amelia joined, she'd likely say, I want to go there. I want this, and we wouldn't be able to buy what we needed. Today is a family day, just for the three of us. So, no, you can't join. Oh, you're such a Scrooge, sis. Ignoring Amelia's tantrum, I nudged Lucas and Charles to start walking. We managed to shake her off and entered a nearby restaurant for lunch. Wow, never thought I'd run into someone here. While eating, I reminisced about the past. Our parents loved both their adopted and biological children equally. They even cherished me more, saying, having Ella brought us the baby and Ella brought us happiness. So, I always tried to care for Amelia. But it seems my feelings didn't reach her. As she grew up, she became more demanding, always saying, "It's not fair, you always favor Ella. I want what my sister has. I absolutely need it. Give it to me, sis." It started with a keychain. Though it was something I bought with a friend, Amelia begged intensely for it, and seeing our parents troubled, I gave it to her. That must have set a precedent. After that, Amelia constantly accused me of being unfair and tried to take things from me. Fortunately, my parents were on my side and scolded her, and since we had an age gap, there was a limit to what she could take. I'm being harassed by my sister. Annoyed by the situation, Amelia targeted my friends next. She went around telling my friends that I bullied her because we weren't blood related. Amelia was good at pretending to cry, and my classmates started to keep their distance from me. Some even said awful things directly or harassed me. That's not possible. Ella has always been fond of Amelia. In the midst of this, Lily, who bought the matching keychain with me, believed in me. She even fought back against the classmates who harassed me and warned Amelia not to lie. Because of this, Amelia and Lily didn't get along. I had been living peacefully since I separated from Amelia when I went to college. However, she recently got married and started living nearby. Sighing, I lamented the unexpected encounter. "Mom, are you okay?" Then, Charles looked at me worriedly. I smiled and brushed it off. "Are you really okay? You're worried about Amelia, aren't you?" While Charles resumed eating, Lucas asked me. I then shared with him the things about Amelia I had never talked about before. "She was like that, huh?" Lucas and Amelia had only met a few times, like during our wedding. And I hadn't brought her up in our conversations before. Since I don't know much about Amelia, I might not be the best person to vent to. Why don't you talk to Lily? Lily? Yeah. How about next week? I'll take care of Charles in the meantime. I nodded at his suggestion and immediately contacted Lily. A week later. Sorry to keep you waiting, Ella. Nothing. Sorry, too, for calling you so suddenly. I finally got the chance to talk to Lily. When I mentioned Amelia, I heard you ran into her and came rushing over with all the info. Saying this, Lily pulled out a report. Internally, I was impressed. Lily was using her observational skills and acting ability as a private detective. Her skills were well known. Wow, as expected. Let me have a look. Then, I reviewed the contents of the report. It detailed Amelia's recent behavior. Even after I left home, it seems she continued to play the victim and did as she pleased, making me out to be the bad guy. She apparently portrayed herself as the poor sister who was mistreated by her adopted older sibling. She apparently used this to attract men, but these relationships always ended quickly. How could she turn out like this with such good parents? I couldn't help but feel astonished reading this. By the way, how are things with Lucas? Suddenly, Lily asked me that. I tilted my head but responded that everything was normal. He's really involved in parenting, and he's even taking care of Charles today, you know? As I replied, Lily looked conflicted. I tilted my head again. Is something wrong? No, it's nothing. If that's the case, then it's all good. Lily shook her head to my inquiry. We chatted for a while longer and parted with smiles. Huh, Charles? Lucas? Ella? Oh, Mom. On my way home, I met up with Lucas, who was holding Charles's hand. Did you guys go out? Yeah. We thought staying at home might be boring, so we went out for a bit of shopping. Oh really? Did you have fun? To my question, Charles nodded, looking like he wanted to say something more. He clung to me without saying anything, tilting his head. Come on, let's head home quickly. Although puzzled, I hurried home at Lucas's urging. All the while, Charles stayed close to me. What do you want for dinner? Oh, I'll take care of it, Lucas said, heading into the kitchen. Should I help? No, it's fine. Can you keep Charles company? He seems to have missed you. I thanked him and turned to Charles, who, with a determined look, began to whisper something to me so Lucas couldn't hear. Shocked, but resolved, I decided on a course of action. Soon after, I received a call from Lily. Ella, I need to talk to you about Lucas. She revealed a certain truth to me, and we decided to take action. I wonder if you could go with him. It happened right after that. I was approached about a business trip. When I discussed it with Lucas, he casually said, "Go for it." Could I leave Charles with my parents? That's fine, but I can look after him. You come home later than me. I'm worried. Hearing my words, he agreed, saying that's true, and with Charles's consent, we decided to leave him with my parents. After explaining the situation to my parents, they told me, leave it to us. So, I left Charles with them, feeling relieved, and headed to the business trip location. By the way, I was supposed to go with a subordinate. That's the situation. You might need to help out. Understood. I discussed various things with him, talking about what's to come. I told Lucas it would be a week-long trip, but the work finished early, and I decided to return in 3 days. Then, I'll leave the rest to you. After parting ways with my subordinate, we each headed to our homes. At that point, I didn't contact Lucas, but instead reached out to Lily. After receiving some advice, I made up my mind and entered the house. I'm home. I called out, but of course, there was no response. Normally, Lucas would also be at work. However, I could feel someone's presence in the house, and there were familiar shoes, including Lucas's. So, I quietly sneaked into the house. And as I expected, I heard voices from the bedroom. You're younger and nicer than Ella. Oh, that's nice to hear. Just stay a little longer. The tired me, returning from a business trip, was greeted by such words from my husband and my sister. After being mocked, I had to start hearing unpleasant voices. For a moment, I thought about bursting in and yelling at them. But I quickly regained my composure and took out my smartphone. Then, I slightly opened the bedroom door to record decisive evidence. They were so engrossed they didn't notice. I can't believe they underestimated me like this. I'll never forgive this. I've been made a fool of to this extent. No need for mercy. I sent the evidence I recorded to Amelia's husband, Asher. Sorry to keep you waiting. Looks like they took the bait. Asher arrived quickly. As did Lily, whom he apparently contacted. I felt somewhat reassured by their presence. All right, shall we storm in? We got ready and decided to confront them at the scene. What are you two doing? The two were shocked to see us. Ella? Why are you here? And why is Asher here too? Your sister-in-law told me. At those words, Amelia glared at me. I handed her an envelope. Answer my question, Lucas demanded, looking at me. I thought it was troublesome but decided to respond. The business trip ended in 3 days. I was accompanying her on the trip as her subordinate. Actually, Asher, my brother-in-law, is my subordinate and Lily's younger brother. So, I was able to explain the situation to him during the trip and also managed to call Lily. Convinced? Now, why don't you check the contents? Lily urged with a smile. But her eyes weren't smiling, making them shudder. And then, their faces turned pale as they saw the contents. I've collected evidence of the affair. It's well captured, isn't it? Yes, the contents were evidence of their affair. They probably never imagined such proof would surface. How can this be? Because I've been investigating you for some time now. What? Actually, Lily was initially investigating Lucas for a different reason. It was for a background check on her daughter's fiancé. What? Fiancé? Of course, Amelia was already married to Asher, so she wasn't the fiancé. And surely my parents wouldn't investigate Lucas now. So, you were involved with others besides me? Yes, Lucas was not only involved with Amelia but also with a junior at the company. The junior's parents became suspicious of Lucas and coincidentally hired Lily's detective agency. When Lily saw the name, she realized it was Lucas, my husband. She suspected his betrayal and started her investigation. The investigation revealed Lucas was approaching various women, not just Amelia and the junior. Am I not enough for you? Lucas turned pale and trembled. Amelia, furious to learn that Lucas was involved with others. You're hardly in a position to complain. But when Asher spoke in a cold voice, everything suddenly went quiet. He gave Amelia a cold, stern look. After all, you're married to me, what are you doing? Amelia, teary-eyed, struggled to find an excuse. Lily, standing next to Asher with her arms crossed, looked stern, probably reminding Amelia of the many times she had been reprimanded. The angry expression was just like her brother's. As I thought this, I started packing. Ella, what are you doing? I'm leaving you, Lucas, so I'm packing my things. Lucas tentatively asked, and I firmly told him. Ignoring his pleas of wait for me and forgive me, I continued. Let me help you with your bags. Oh, thank you. No problem. I'll send your things to this house, Amelia. Asher said, carrying my luggage for me, and we left the house with a smile. As we left, they started yelling, but... Enough already! You idiots! Lily scolded them sharply. Instantly, they screamed in fright and fell silent. Leaving them behind, we confidently exited the house. Then I parted ways with Lily and Asher and went to my parents' house where Charles was. Turns out, there was an affair after all. I told my parents that Amelia and Lucas were indeed having an affair. Hearing this, they sighed deeply and consoled me with apologetic expressions. Don't feel sad, it's not your fault. I had already been informed by Lily about their affair. The day after she shared the information with me, she said, I can't stay silent about this, and revealed everything. Even Lily's evidence alone could have been enough for a divorce. But somewhere in my heart, I wanted to believe in Lucas. That's why I didn't divorce him until I saw it with my own eyes. Charles, were you a good boy? Feeling sorry for my worried parents, I changed the subject. Smiling, my parents responded. He's just like you, a good kid. Such a sweet child. Charles, praised by his beloved grandparents, smiled happily. I was glad I left him here. Sorry, can I stay here for a while? To my question, they nodded, of course. A few hours later. As we were chatting and eating the souvenirs from my business trip. I knew you'd be here. Amelia barged in. It's your fault that Asher and I are getting divorced. If it weren't for you. Amelia glared at me, yelling those words. As I hugged a frightened Charles and was about to retort. Get out! You're no daughter of ours. Instead, my parents yelled back at her. Her focus shifted to them. What are you talking about? I'm your real daughter. Our daughter is only Ella. You were spoiled by your grandmother and grew up to be terrible. We can't think of you as our daughter anymore. My parents responded in an exasperated tone to Amelia's words. Yes, Amelia's twisted nature was triggered by our grandmother. She never accepted me, the adopted child, and doted on Amelia, her biological granddaughter. As a result, Amelia disregarded our parents' warnings and used me, the adopted sister, for her advantage. I always wanted to be real sisters with you. I could tell that struck a nerve with Amelia. You always act like that, thinking you're better than me just because you're not a biological child, even having a child of your own, something I couldn't do. I wanted a child with Asher too. Amelia ranted and raved. Indeed, she had no children. But that was her own doing, as her actions with various men resulted in her being unable to have children. You have no right to say such things to me. Shut up! Amelia raised her hand at my words. But as I braced myself, Charles stepped in between us. This is bad, Charles might be in danger. No, don't do this. Before she could reach Charles, my father grabbed her hand and stopped her. Then forcibly threw her out. Watching her leave, I hugged Charles. Don't do dangerous things like that. Sorry, I just wanted to protect Mom. As my parents said, Charles really is a good kid. I thanked him and stroked his head. Later, Amelia reluctantly went to Lucas. Lucas got sued for marriage fraud by the junior's parents. Lily informed me later. Moreover, it was discovered that Lucas had been engaging in affairs during work hours. Naturally, Lucas was fired. I thought I would never see him again, but he was more persistent than I expected. Please, Ella! Help me! Lucas, who had been lying in wait outside the company, clung to me as I arrived at work. Even as I ignored him and tried to enter the company, he kept obstinately getting in my way. If you're going to cling like that, why did you cheat? I know it. You're the one who approached first. Well. Yes, Lucas was the one who approached first. That day, after I went to bed, he found Amelia's address from New Year's greeting cards and visited her, claiming it was a work call. Amelia, a stay-at-home wife, was at home and welcomed him with, "Ella was rude yesterday, wasn't she?" That's how he managed to get into her house and start their affair. Lily confronted Amelia for me. After returning to our respective homes, I told Lily about Amelia's visit. Knowing that Charles could have been hurt, Lily, infuriated, went after Amelia, who had been chased out. Amelia hadn't reached her house yet and was caught by Lily before she could escape. Confronted by Lily, Amelia, triggered by her trauma, spilled everything. Did you really think I would help you? But I was really serious about you. What is he even talking about? If that were true, he wouldn't have cheated in the first place. While thinking about this, I was about to call the police, reaching for my smartphone. Enough already. I'll sue you for business interference. At that moment, Asher arrived. He pulled me towards him and once again gave Lucas a cold look. A guy like you, we don't need in our company. What? Actually, Asher will be the next president of this company. I joined this company due to the good relationship I've had with them for a long time. Because of my excellent performance, Asher was assigned as my subordinate. And he was training to become the next president. You're kidding, right? Lucas, unaware of this, looked at Asher in disbelief. It's not a joke. Leave now. Asher's demeanor showed no sign of reconsideration. Dejected, Lucas left. By the way, Amelia knew about Asher's upcoming role as the next president. Furthermore, it seems Amelia genuinely loved Asher. Getting a divorce was really tough, Asher confided. I comforted him with a pat on the shoulder. And Asher gave me a troubled smile in return. Later. Excuse me. Yes, thank you for your hard work. I was called in by the president. My son owes you one. And about Lucas, it's unfortunate. The president started discussing the matter, looking a bit conflicted. Asher, concerned about the recent events, was going to train in a subsidiary for a while. It was probably a good idea to put some physical distance between him and Amelia, considering her persistence. So, I've been thinking about handing over the project I had planned for my son to you. Of course, the promotion to department head that was originally planned will still stand. I felt honored by this and agreed to take on the responsibility. With this, I should be able to live comfortably even without Lucas. Since I'll be busy, my parents have agreed to look after Charles. By the way, Lucas wasn't taking care of Charles. You know, I was actually staying with my dad's parents. He had been staying with his in-laws, and it seemed they weren't too happy about it. Charles confided to me secretly one day. I vowed to myself that I wouldn't let him feel that way anymore. Fortunately, my parents, who are not biologically related to Charles, adore him as their own grandchild. With these worries gone, I'm even more motivated to work hard. It seems that Asher also managed to successfully distance himself from Amelia. That kid is doing well in a subsidiary, Lily told me when we had tea together. At that time, I learned about Asher's situation. Asher has always been a hard worker. I'm sure he'll be fine. Yeah, about that. I was wondering if you could meet him sometime to show your support? I'll take care of Charles. Surprised, I tilted my head in response. I don't mind meeting him. But from the way she said it, it sounds like she wants us to meet alone. Well, I guess you'll understand once you meet him, she said with a mischievous smile. I don't fully understand the situation, but I've decided to meet with Asher. Charles is being looked after by Lily, a little distance away. I was surprised when you suddenly wanted to meet. Yes, well, I have been wondering how you've been since then. Thanks to you. It's still new to me, but I'm doing my best, Asher said with a smile. I felt bad about the trouble caused because of Amelia, and I wanted him to be happy. As I was thinking this, Asher looked at me seriously and said, I like you, Ella. What? I was taken aback by his sudden confession. Apparently, Asher has liked me for a long time. However, due to the age difference, I only saw him as a younger brother. Because of this, he had given up on me. That's why I got together with Amelia, who said she would console me. It seems Amelia knew that he had feelings for me. She took advantage of that knowledge to start a relationship with him. When I married Lucas, Asher completely moved on and decided to marry Amelia. I did love Amelia. I don't know what she was thinking when she approached me, but she was a support to me. Amelia must have really loved Asher too. That's why, among many men, she chose to marry him. But now they are divorced, and she's angry at me. I was quite shocked when I found out about Amelia's betrayal through my sister. You've had a tough time, Asher. I'm sorry, I'm not ready for those feelings yet. Besides, I want to prioritize Charles right now. I understand. I'm not in a rush for an answer, he said with a smile. I was touched by the loving look he gave me, and my heart skipped a beat. Mommy, are you done talking? Yes. We're done, I replied, turning my attention to my son Charles as he ran up to us. I lifted him up, now noticeably heavier, and he smiled happily. Charles, I hope we can continue to be good friends. Huh? Asher, we're already friends, aren't we? Asher, being Charles's uncle theoretically, often played with him. Therefore, Charles tilted his head in confusion, to which Asher chuckled and agreed. We might see each other less, but I hope we can stay as close as before. Yeah. Charles nodded with a smile, and Asher gently stroked his head. From then on, Asher made time to come and see us. He gave Charles more attention than Lucas ever did, and Charles grew quite fond of him. Ella! Charles! Why are you here? While we were playing in the park, a disheveled Lucas appeared. Apparently, since divorcing Asher, Amelia had been wreaking havoc daily. The two of them had paid a substantial alimony, and Lucas couldn't afford to replace the furniture and appliances Amelia had destroyed. Hence, his disheveled appearance. You must have missed Daddy. Let's be together again, the three of us. I don't need Daddy. Charles interrupted Lucas firmly. Lucas, taken aback, asked, You don't? Me and Mommy, Daddy doesn't like us, right? Well, that's not. Mommy and I have Asher now. So, we don't need Daddy anymore. Lucas walked away with a dejected look. And I turned back to Charles and Asher with a smile. Charles, would you be happy if Asher became your daddy? Yes. I'd be happy. Charles beamed. Tears welled up in Asher's eyes. No more tears, or you can't be a daddy. You're right. Let me say it again. Please let me be your husband, Ella, and Charles's daddy. I nodded with a smile. After being rejected by us, Lucas became like a soulless man and apparently quit the part-time job he was doing. Amelia, of course, was furious about this, but he just ignored her. Fed up with Lucas, Amelia left and disappeared into the night. Lucas was taken back to his in-laws' house by his former parents-in-law. It turns out he really did love me. I learned about Lucas from my former in-laws. When they expressed a hope for me to reconcile with Lucas if possible, I immediately responded, "Charles and I already have someone who cares for us deeply." Hearing this, my former in-laws quickly gave up. "Hey, Charles, do you want to see your former dad's grandparents?" "No, I don't want to see them for a while." My former in-laws, who frequently took care of Charles and didn't feel good about that, said sorry about it after learning the whole story. However, Charles seems to want to keep his distance for now. Since Lucas is at his former in-laws' house, we'll just become estranged. Because we don't need them anymore. Asher is coming over next Saturday. Really? I have so much I want to talk to Asher, my dad. Charles said with a smile, and I gently stroked his head. After that, Asher and I started dating. And when Asher returned from the subsidiary to the main company, we decided to move out of my parents' house. We're planning to live together as a family of 3 in our new home. Please marry me, Ella. Yes, I'd love to. Soon after, I accepted Asher's proposal and we got married. My parents and Lily blessed us, saying, "May you be happy this time," and Charles was delighted, exclaiming, "I'm happy Asher is becoming my dad." I know it's odd for me to say, but Asher will definitely make Ella happy. Lily saw how Asher loved me and witnessed his heartbreak when things didn't work out. That's why she encouraged him to pursue me when I divorced Lucas. I know both the good in Ella and the good in Asher. That's why I want you both to be happy. She has always been there for me, pushing me forward. For her sake too, I must be as happy as possible. So, let's go out for a drink to celebrate next time. Sorry, I can't do that. Why? Lily looked puzzled, but then I smiled and gently touched my belly. Realizing what I meant, her face lit up with joy. Could it be? I'm expecting our second child. So, I can't join you for drinks. Of course. Wow, I'm as happy as if it were my own news. She genuinely seemed thrilled. Her smile was so infectious that I couldn't help but smile too. Charles is excited too, saying, "I'm gonna be a big brother." Wow, that's so like Charles. He's going to be a wonderful big brother, I'm sure. When I told Charles he was going to have a brother or sister, he was so happy he practically jumped for joy. Asher felt the same way, and once he lifted me up in his excitement, Charles scolded him, saying, "Don't strain Mom's body." So, I want Lily to help us with naming the baby. Really? I'll think really hard about it. Suddenly, Lily became immersed in thought about what to name the baby. Watching her, I couldn't help but smile. From now on, I want to build a home where Charles, Asher, and our unborn child can all laugh together. I swore that in my heart. Right now, my dad is in critical condition. Can you come right away? I'll give you the hospital's address. What? No way, I've just arrived at my vacation spot. Huh? Vacation? What are you talking about? My father is in a serious situation. When I got angry like that, my husband said something unbelievable. I mean, I'm not really involved with him, you know. What? I'm exhausted from work every day. Let me have this trip. I felt my feelings for him cooling down rapidly. Fine. Don't bother coming back then. My name is Julie, a 30-year-old housewife. I've been married to Ken for 3 years. We met at a social gathering. Being of the same age and sharing similar interests, we were drawn to each other and began to meet just the 2 of us. After several dates, he confessed and we started dating. He was bright and refreshing, always making me laugh. I was increasingly attracted to him. Our relationship went smoothly from there. About 2 years into our relationship, he proposed to me. My feelings for you will never change. I want to build a warm home with you. Will you marry me? Yes. I'd be honored. I immediately accepted his proposal. And so, we decided to get married. We then visited each other's parents to announce our marriage. My in-laws were very kind, and I felt relieved there wouldn't be any mistreatment. After a successful meeting between our families, we got married. Then our married life began. I quit my job to become a full-time housewife, as Ken had wanted. I worked hard at household chores, supporting him in every way. I made sure my cooking, laundry, and cleaning were top-notch. I paid special attention to our meals, ensuring a variety of dishes and different menus daily. It seemed like he was satisfied with my efforts. Your cooking is so good, it makes me want to come home early every day. I'm glad to hear that. I'll keep making delicious food. Thank you. Seeing him happy while eating made me feel joyous. I believed we would continue to live happily together. But things started to change after our daughter Mina was born. Being a new mom, I struggled with many unknowns in parenting. Sometimes, I couldn't manage household chores as I wished. Mina often woke up at night, making it hard for me to get up early and prepare Ken's lunch. Sorry, can you buy lunch today? Mina kept me up until 4 a.m. What? No lunch? I don't want to eat out. Then you should have stayed up and made lunch. What? You're just relaxing during the day, right? Sleep when I'm at work. Frustrated, Ken snatched $50 from me and left for work. I was stunned by his words. I didn't expect such a reaction. I was doing my best with parenting and household chores alone. I accepted doing household chores since I'm a housewife. But I wanted his help with parenting. There's no rule saying I should be the only one to bathe her, change diapers, or soothe her at night. However, Ken seemed to think his job was done by working, and parenting was solely my role. He couldn't accept any slack in household chores because of our child. Is this another lazy meal? What? Lazy? It's obvious. What do you mean? There's a main dish, 2 side dishes, and a soup. The main dish is weak. You used to make more substantial meals. Are you slacking off? I've told you, I'm swamped with childcare and can't spend as much time on household chores. That's just an excuse. My mom always managed, even with me and my brother. She had it harder than you with just one child. You're just being lazy. But I never thought he could be so insensitive. He seemed so kind and gentlemanly before marriage, but turned out to be a completely different person after having a child. As a full-time housewife with a child, and not working, I had no choice but to rely on my husband Ken's salary. I felt it was unfair, but I couldn't stand up to him, fearing that being abandoned would be the end for me. In the end, I couldn't argue back and just accepted what he said. It really infuriated me when Ken seemed pleased with himself for having the upper hand. I wanted to go back to my parents' house to relieve stress, but it was quite a distance from our home, making it hard to visit easily. This added to my frustration. If I could meet and talk with my mom during the day, it would help me let off some steam and feel more at ease. However, the distance meant I often had to endure alone. Despite this, I managed to balance childcare and household chores. Time passed, and my daughter Mina turned 3. At this age, she began to speak a lot more, and conversing with her became a way for me to take a break. Now that she started going to kindergarten, I had some time to myself, which allowed me to do housework and relax more. However, my relationship with Ken was growing colder by the year. He seemed not to want to be with me anymore and started coming home later and later. Usually, he returned around midnight, sometimes just catching the last train. He rarely ate dinner at home and barely interacted with Mina. He would come home when she was asleep and leave for work before she woke up, so they hardly saw each other. At one point, Mina even thought of Ken as just some man who was around on weekends. I felt it was bad that her own father was seen this way by his daughter. Ken, can't you come home earlier? Mina doesn't even recognize you as her father. She asked me where her dad was and what he was doing. She tells her kindergarten teachers she doesn't have a father, and they even asked if we were divorced. Ken seemed a bit shocked by this, but unwilling to change. I'm working late, then going out with my boss and juniors for drinks. It's all linked to my earnings, which supports our family. So, you should handle these things. That's your role as a wife and mother. In the end, he just dumped everything on me. It sounded plausible, but essentially, he didn't want to do anything. I doubted whether he was really working overtime or just out drinking. While I nodded along to his words, inside, I doubted him. It was foolish of me to have hoped for his understanding. He didn't share my sense of crisis at all. Underestimating a child can lead to a harsh backlash someday. And while Ken claimed he was working hard, our financial situation hadn't improved. If he was truly working overtime, it meant he was spending the extra money on himself, which was pointless and only beneficial to him. Ken began going out alone more often on weekends, even telling me to pack for sudden business trips. He seemed to see me more as a housekeeper. It seems like the only reason for continuing our marriage is because I take care of everything around the house. I didn't want to live just to take care of him. This rebellious feeling grew within me. But as long as we depended on Ken's salary, I couldn't just leave with Mina. So, I told Ken I wanted to work part-time during the day. Earning my own money, even a little, was important. As expected, he wasn't happy. Huh? That's unnecessary. You just need to take care of the house as a full-time housewife. I want to save for when Mina wants to take classes or for school expenses. Of course, I'll still do the housework. Besides, you're hardly home for dinner these days. Me working during the day won't affect anything. After some thought, Ken agreed. Just make sure you do the laundry and cleaning. That's the condition. I promise I'll manage everything properly, I assured him. This way, I convinced Ken and started working. Perhaps it was the way I phrased it. Not blaming him, but suggesting it wouldn't disrupt our current lifestyle. Ken must have realized that whether I worked during the day or not didn't matter. I immediately started looking for a job and found an office position with short hours. I was hired, much to my surprise. Working part-time and interacting with people of various ages and perspectives was a significant change for me. It widened my horizons and kept me in a better mental state. Earning my own money gave me confidence and strength. I worked hard and soon earned recognition at work. Julie, you catch on so quickly. You're a great help. I wish you could become a full-time employee. Yeah, Julie, aren't you interested in becoming a full-time staff member? Well, honestly, I was very interested. But becoming a full-time employee would make it difficult to balance childcare and household chores. First off, Ken probably wouldn't approve. When I shared this with my superiors, they looked disappointed but understood. However, I made it clear that I wasn't uninterested, so maybe there'll be another chance in the future. So I decided to keep working hard and wait for the right time. Meanwhile, something concerning Ken started bothering me. I suspected he was having an affair. One day, during my lunch break at work, I went to eat at a casual Italian restaurant downtown. That's when I saw Ken leaving the restaurant with a woman I didn't know. Ken was in a suit, and the woman looked more like she was dressed for work than for leisure, so maybe they were just colleagues having lunch. This alone wasn't enough to conclude he was having an affair. But, call it a woman's intuition, I felt there was a high chance Ken was cheating with that woman. So, I decided to hire a detective agency to investigate. Maybe Ken's late nights were because he was meeting with his mistress, not staying late with his boss as he claimed. He didn't look as tired as he should have been, probably because he was enjoying his time with his mistress. While making these assumptions, I waited for the investigation results. About 2 weeks later, the results came in. Ken was indeed having an affair. And the woman was the one I had seen. I felt a strange sense of relief that my suspicions were correct. Probably because this meant I could end things with Ken. If he was cheating, he would be at a significant disadvantage in a divorce. I could claim alimony and child support. And with a job offer for a full-time position, I felt confident I could manage even if we divorced. I decided to leave Ken. But then, I got a call from my mom. "Hello, Mom, what's up?" "Julie, I'm sorry to call you out of the blue. Your dad collapsed and has been taken to the hospital." "What?" I hurriedly took Mina with me to the hospital. I hadn't visited my parents in several months and hadn't seen them since then. Hearing about my dad's sudden collapse was a shock. When I arrived at the hospital, I found my mom looking anxious. "Mom! Julie! Thank you for coming. How's Dad?" "He's undergoing treatment now. We were relaxing at home, and he collapsed when I returned from the bathroom." "I see." I patted my mother's back. She must have been shocked to witness her partner collapsing. The thought of losing my father was distressing. Just thinking about that made me feel really hurt. After a while, the doctor came out and informed us that my dad had suffered a stroke. He regained consciousness, but his condition was still precarious. Dad was admitted to the hospital. We went to his room and waited by his side as he slept. A few hours later, he slowly woke up. "Dad! Hey!" "I'm sorry for worrying you. I'm just glad you woke up." The doctor came and checked my dad's condition. He was stable for now, but there was no telling if his condition might worsen. Mina had fallen asleep, so I left her with my mom and went back to our house to get some of Dad's clothes. During this time, I sent Ken a message, informing him that my dad was seriously ill and in the hospital. Ken didn't read my message immediately, but I figured I had done my part in informing him and hurried back to my parents' house. Later, we returned to the hospital, where my mom, Mina, and I stayed with my dad through the night, hoping for his recovery. He seemed to be breathing steadily, and I thought he might get better. However, his condition worsened by midday. He was rushed to the treatment room, hooked up to numerous tubes, and treatment began. I couldn't shake the feeling that he might not make it. I tried to contact Ken again. Given that my father was in critical condition, I really wanted Ken, as his son-in-law, to be there. But I couldn't get through to him. It was Saturday, so he should have been off work. Maybe he had been out drinking till late and was now asleep. Just as I thought I couldn't rely on him, the call connected. "Hello? What's up?" "Ken, can you come to the hospital right away?" "What? The hospital? What do you mean?" "My dad's in critical condition. Can you come immediately? I'll give you the address." I was about to tell him the address when he interrupted. "What? No way, I've already arrived at my travel destination." "Travel? What are you talking about?" "Oh, didn't I tell you? Some colleagues and I planned a 2-day trip, and today's the day. I'm already here, so I can't go to the hospital." "What are you saying? My father is in a serious situation." When I got angry, Ken said something outrageous. "I mean, I'm not really involved, you know." "What?" "I'm exhausted from work every day. I deserve a break on my day off. Let me have this trip," he shouted. I felt my feelings for him cooling down rapidly. "I don't care about you anymore. Don't bother coming back." I hung up and returned to my mom and daughter, where we watched over my father. Unfortunately, despite the treatment, he never regained consciousness and passed away. We were engulfed in grief. I wondered how much we cried. My mom must have been terribly shocked. She and my dad were very close. We were in a daze, unable to think about anything for a while. But we couldn't cry forever. We gathered ourselves and began making arrangements for my dad's funeral. The wake was held the next day, and the funeral the day after. Many relatives, friends, and others who admired my dad attended. Just before the funeral began, Ken showed up. "Sorry. I'm late. I couldn't make it when your dad was critical." His apology seemed half-hearted. Not sincere. I confronted him as he approached. Why are you here? People who aren't related should leave. What? I'm your dad's son-in-law. Are you angry I'm late? Everyone's already here, don't get too emotional. He tried to calm me down. But I stood my ground. When I told you my dad was in critical condition and asked you to come to the hospital, you said you were on a trip and it was impossible, right? You yelled at me, saying you deserved the trip. The funeral hall buzzed with my words. Hey! Don't talk like that. I was on a work trip with colleagues. I couldn't just leave. It might have affected my work. A colleague so narrow-minded that they can't let you leave during a family emergency won't achieve much at work. Or were you really with your mistress? What? What are you talking about? Stop making baseless accusations. That's defamation. Sadly for you, I have evidence of your affair. What? I had hired a detective agency. There are lots of evidence photos in my bag. But for now, I'll show you the data saved on my phone. I showed him the screen, and his face turned pale. When did you? Suddenly, my in-laws stepped in front of Ken, and my mother-in-law slapped him. What are you doing? Betraying Julie and Mina and having an affair. You disgrace! The in-laws scolded him while he stood there in shock. The funeral attendees looked at him coldly. My in-laws apologized to my mom and me. Then took Ken away. Afterward, I contacted a lawyer, demanded a divorce from Ken, and filed for alimony and child support. Ken ended up with a substantial debt. I reported everything to his workplace, and he lost his standing there. Now, he's been relegated to another department, treated coldly by his colleagues, and cut off by his in-laws. He lives a lonely life, mostly paying off his debts. Ken's mistress seemed to have treated their affair as just a fling, and she quickly disappeared from his life. Meanwhile, I moved back to my parents' house and now live there with my mom and daughter, Mina. When I discussed my situation with my company, they said the offer to become a full-time employee still stands. If I request it, they're willing to make the switch right away. This should make supporting my daughter no problem at all. I asked Mina how she felt about not seeing her father anymore, and she said it was okay since he was practically non-existent in her life anyway. Even if Ken wants to see Mina, I doubt she'd be interested in meeting him. I plan to continue pouring my love into Mina, spending happy and joyful days with my mom and daughter. Hello. Where are you right now? I'm on my way to a job interview. You withdrew money from my account, didn't you? The money I had saved up is gone. What's going on? I needed the money. I was planning to pay you back once I got a job, so I didn't say anything. Don't joke with me. This is nothing short of theft. Have you lost the ability to distinguish right from wrong? I'm not saying I won't pay you back, so there's no need to freak out, okay? I told you I'd pay you back once I start earning money from a job. Don't you understand what I'm saying? My husband, who quit his job right after we got married and spent his days gambling. He had been using my savings. I was at my wit's end with my husband's defiance and hung up the phone. After that, we didn't speak for a week. One day, after working late, I came home at 11 p.m. As I approached our house, I saw the lights on. I wished he had gone to bed earlier. As I was about to enter the house. Ma'am, you shouldn't go inside right now. Oh. No. Why shouldn't I go inside, huh? It's not just your husband inside. He's borrowed money, you know. Actually, about that. Our neighbor, who had been lying in wait for me. I was surprised since we had never spoken before, but his next words left me speechless. Judging it too dangerous to enter, I decided. My name is Sally, and I currently work in an office at a small to medium-sized company, living alone. When I was in high school, my mother fell ill, and I started working right after graduating from high school. It was a tough decision for me at the time since going to college was not an option due to our family's financial situation. However, I was grateful to my mother, who raised me by herself, and I felt I had to work hard for her sake. Oh hi, I'll be heading out now. If you'd like, take this with you. You're going to the hospital to see your mom, right? Are these pastries? Here, I heard your mom is hospitalized, and I thought she might like these. Actually, a client brought it as a gift. You're always working hard, after all. Thank you so much. My mom loves sweets, so she'll be thrilled. Honestly, the reason I was able to get a job even with just a high school diploma was because it was an office job. Not to look down on all office workers, but the job is relatively simple. Because it's a job that even a high school graduate can do, I felt like I wasn't very important to the company. But everyone at the company, starting with the boss, was really kind to me, and there were many people who supported me as I worked hard for my mom. Mom, this is from the boss. He said you can have it. It's a pretty famous brand of sweet pastries. Want to eat it together? Is that so? You are truly loved. It's just that everyone is kind. But the atmosphere at work is really good, and even as a high school graduate, I feel needed. I'm glad I took the job. Not everything was going smoothly. It wasn't a matter of life or death, but my mom was hospitalized, and those costs were nothing to sneeze at. Since I worked as an office worker, my salary wasn't that high, and after paying rent and hospital bills, there was hardly any money left over. Of course, I didn't have any money to spend on hobbies, nor did I have the time, but I wasn't lonely, nor did I suffer from mental stress. Moreover, recently, someone had been making advances towards me, and my heart was a bit fluttery. Sorry. I'm late. The meeting went on longer than expected. Did you wait long? Not at all, don't worry. Good. Then, since it's already late, let's go grab some dinner. He was a salesperson who had come to the company where I worked, and as an office worker, I had met him several times. At first, we interacted purely on a professional basis, but after he made advances, we went out for dinner. It had been years since I had gone out to dinner with a man, and I really enjoyed it. After a few months, we started dating, and a year later, we got married. Both of us were over 30, and there was a rush to get married, but I was glad I could marry him. However, my opinion changed about a month after we got married. You know, I've decided to quit my job. Excuse me? My current job isn't what I want to do. So, I'm going to pursue what I really want to do from now on. But what about our living expenses? For a while, we can manage on your salary. Don't worry, I won't be unemployed forever. Being newly married, and though not a lot, I was able to bring in a stable income. That's why I decided to support my husband's job hunting. A job is important as a means to earn money, and it's natural to seek a position that pays more. But since it's something you do every day, you shouldn't settle for less. I'm not the kind of person who can just say work is work and not get stressed about it. All right, but my salary isn't that much, so try to find a job as soon as you can. Sure. Even when I was living alone, I was barely making ends meet, so there was no room for savings. That's why, covering living expenses for the two of us on just my salary was tough, but I decided to support my husband in his job search. However, I'm home. Huh? Did you smoke? Me? Smoke? No way. Then why do I smell cigarettes? Could it be gambling at casino? Ah. I went to an interview today, and I stopped by on my way back. I've told you to quit gambling. Why would you do that? It's just a little break. You can't expect me to spend all my days just going to interviews without any breaks, right? Indeed. I understand that being chased by interviews every day can accumulate stress. But isn't that unavoidable? He was the one who quit his job, and I was the one funding his job search. On days he has interviews in both the morning and afternoon, I even give him lunch money. If there's money for gambling, I wish he'd save a bit. Where are you even getting the money for gambling? From the grocery money. If I end up making a profit, you shouldn't have any complaints, right? I've told you to not dip into our living expenses. It's not like we're in a huge debts. Plus, if I shop during the supermarket's discount hours, it ends up being cheaper. I'm the one who does the shopping. Going to work, then shopping, and I have to cook too. The discount hours at the supermarket are right before closing time at night. Are you really saying I should go shopping at such a time? I never thought he'd push everything onto me like this, nor did I anticipate our marriage facing problems so early on. Well, once I get a job, I'll manage from my own salary. It's not about that. You're being too naggy, you know? Since I have an interview tomorrow, can you hurry up and make dinner? Really? Why am I being made out to be the bad one here? If he has money and time to go gambling, he could have at least thought about me, working and doing household chores, and bought dinner. Well, expecting anything from my husband is probably pointless. Oh well. After saying all this, surely even he would understand. That was what I thought, but his behavior never improved. Hey. It's been half a year since you started your job search. When are you going to find something? If it were easy, I would have found something by now. Don't you get it? Finding the perfect job isn't that simple. I understand that, but isn't compromise important too? If this keeps up, you'll be unemployed forever. If there's a long gap, employers will wonder what you've been doing, and it'll only make it harder for you to get hired, you know? Stop nagging. You don't know how hard it is to change jobs. When I said that, my husband snapped back at me. But I don't think what I'm saying is wrong at all. Despite saying he's job hunting, my husband spends all his time gambling. The lack of progress in finding a job and the constant spending of money are causing me trouble. Lately, he's even started going out at night. I'm heading out for a bit. Again. It's already 8 p.m. Where are you going at this hour? Where? It's none of your business, is it? How can it not be my business? And, how are you managing the money? It's none of your business. Stop nagging me. Don't interfere with what I'm doing. He yelled and then left. Why do I have to be yelled at? And I don't even know where he's going. No money, but where and what is he doing at night? Could it be an affair? The thought crossed my mind, but I couldn't believe he would betray me to that extent. No. Maybe I just wanted to believe that. Despite having no money, going out night after night, an affair was the only thing I could think of, but I didn't want to add more worries to my plate. And so, about 3 months passed. My husband still hadn't found a new job, and time just kept passing by. Lately, I've been so fed up, wondering if he even intends to find a new job, but today, he unusually wore a suit and left early in the morning. I'll be home late today, so don't wait up for dinner. Got it. Take care. I was off work and at home, wondering if he might be going for an interview. Or maybe, he just wore the suit to deceive me and went gambling. I had set a limit for myself. If a year passed since he started job hunting and he still hadn't found a job, I'd consider divorce. I can't follow a person I can't trust. That's what I thought. While thinking such thoughts and tidying up the room, my eyes landed on a bank book I had stored in the dresser. I keep important things on the right side of the dresser. So why was it moved to the left? Thinking this, I quickly checked the contents of the bank account balance. And, almost all the savings I had saved up were gone. What's going on? Who could have? Various thoughts came to mind, but there was only one suspect. My husband. He might be at an interview, but regardless, I called him. Hello. Where are you right now? I'm on my way to an interview. Did you withdraw money from my account? The money I had saved up is gone. What's going on? I needed the money. I was planning to pay you back once I got a job, that's why I didn't tell you. Don't mess with me. This is nothing but theft. Have you lost the ability to tell right from wrong? I'm not saying I won't pay you back, so there's no need for you to freak out, okay? I told you I'd pay you back once I get a job and start making money. Don't you understand what I'm saying? Hold on. Why am I being made out to be the bad one here? The current situation. It's 100% my husband's fault. I could understand if it were savings we saved up together after getting married. But this is money I've saved up on my own over 10 years. Even though it was tough just covering my mom's hospital bills and living expenses, I saved a little bit whenever I could. The amount might not have been huge, but such betrayal. I couldn't forgive. It's not about the amount. It was the betrayal by my husband that made me furious. Don't mess with me. You might as well not come back home, I said and hung up the phone. Maybe he needed money urgently. Well, most likely, he spent it on gambling or something, but even if not, shouldn't he have discussed it with me first? Just because we're family doesn't mean anything goes. Especially with money lending and borrowing among family, it has to be handled properly. It's a matter of trust. Even a child knows that. I won't accept an adult not understanding this. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, and I couldn't control my emotions, that's how mad I was. That evening, I went to the hospital to discuss this with my mom. Can you believe he spent the money I saved up without asking? Isn't that crazy? Yes, it's unbelievable. My mom said it's better to divorce such a person. You shouldn't marry someone you can't trust if you're going to spend decades together. I was planning to wait a year, but I started thinking it's better to divorce him sooner. That's how I felt. When I returned home, my husband hadn't come back yet, so I ate and went to bed. I had work the next day, so I ate breakfast and headed to the office. There was a lot to do, but my mind was preoccupied with yesterday's events. I could barely get anything done and couldn't concentrate at all until the evening. However, I couldn't just leave without doing anything, so I decided to stay late and finish today's work. Are you still here? You know, you can go home and come back to it tomorrow if you need to. No. I couldn't get much done today, so I need to finish what I have to before I go home. Have a good evening. I said this to the boss and went back to my work. Even though I knew I had to finish today, my work speed was less than half of my usual. My mind was filled not with work, but with thoughts of my husband. Switching my focus was easier said than done. What am I going to do now? If I'm going to divorce, when should I do it? And how should I bring it up? My unemployed husband can't live without me. Even if I say I want a divorce, I don't think he'll agree easily. The place we're living in is in my name, so moving out would be a hassle. And without any money on hand, moving out wouldn't even be an option. What should I do? As I pondered this while working, it quickly became night. I'm finally done. But it's already 9 p.m. It was past 9 p.m. when I finished, and I went out to eat. Probably my husband was back home, and I didn't want to see his face. That was all I could think about. After eating at a diner, it was about 10:30 p.m. It's about time to head back. Thinking this, I reluctantly started my way home. I arrived at the street in front of my house in about 30 minutes, walking with my head down. The lights were on inside, so my husband was back. I wished he had gone to bed earlier so I could avoid seeing him, but as I got closer to the house. Excuse me. What? The person who came out from beside the house was a young, tall man. His hair was long and unkempt, and he was wearing sweats. I stepped back in fear, but this person lived next door. We hadn't spoken before, and he was rumored to be a recluse in the neighborhood because he was always home. I was terrified and my mind went blank. Even though I recognized him, we had never spoken, and I didn't know what kind of person he was. Alone in the middle of the night with no one else around, and it seemed like he had been waiting for me. What should I do? The thought that this person might, made my heart race and sweat break out. I'm I'm sorry for startling you, but it's not a good time to go inside right now. What? It's not good to talk about it here. Let's go to the diner down the street. There's a lot we need to talk about. He said, then started walking, indicating for me to follow. What exactly is going on? But being told it's better not to enter the house. I wanted to hear the story, so I asked him while keeping my distance. Wait a minute. What do you mean it's better not to enter the house? There are people in the house, not just your husband. Your husband, he's borrowed money, right? The people collecting that debt are waiting for you. He said this while looking into my eyes, then started walking again. Could it be about debt collection? I had no idea my husband had borrowed money. Sure, he had used up my money, but did he borrow money after running out? For gambling. I didn't know what he was up to, so I couldn't be sure if this guess was right, but if what he's saying is true, it was right not to enter the house. And he might know something. If it's at a diner, there are people around, and I won't be put in danger. Thinking this, I decided to follow him. We arrived at the diner in about 10 minutes, and we ordered some drink. So, what's happening exactly? First, I apologize for startling you. It looked like I was lying in wait, but I had to do that to prevent you from entering the house. That's okay, but what exactly is? Actually, I'm a foreign currency trader. I work from evening to midnight. So, today, when I got up in the evening to start working, I heard loud noises from next door. Looking out the window, I saw a group of 3 shady people entering your house. My window was open, so I could hear their conversation. They were talking about how to pay back a debt of $100,000. What? $100,000? He had borrowed that much. Honestly, I was shocked because I didn't expect it to be such a large amount. $100,000 is a huge amount. What did he borrow it for? Even for gambling, that's too much. Is that true? Yes, it's true. I was surprised too. I heard the entire conversation. Is he gambling? I think he goes to gambling, but no. I think it's some illegal, underground casino. What? Underground gambling. I wasn't familiar with that kind of stuff, but I guess it's like a legal casino. Betting a fortune, so that's why he borrowed $100,000. Trying to strike it rich, but obviously, that's ridiculous. And when he couldn't pay it back, they came to collect at the house. I'm working hard, and he's doing this. I was really angry at my husband. And, if he was there since the evening, he must have been waiting for me to come home. They can't take anything from my husband because he's not working, so they must have been planning to take it from me. My husband has caused me such trouble. Does he not care at all? So, you helped me because you heard that conversation? Yes. It didn't seem like your husband was working. I thought maybe I was being too nosy, but I'm glad I spoke up. If I had gone into the house as usual. Thank you so much. No. It's okay. Thanks to the neighbor looking out for me, I was saved. But I couldn't just go home, so I decided to stay at a nearby business hotel for the night. I didn't tell my husband because I didn't want him coming to the hotel. And the next day, I had the neighbor check the situation at the house, and once the debt collectors had left, I went home. What? Who were those people? You. What were you doing yesterday? Why didn't you come home without saying anything? Obviously. Knowing those scary people were there, how could I come back? And about the $100,000 debt. What's that all about? Explain. That is. As I confronted my husband with a loud voice and glaring at him, he mumbled his response. He can't even explain his own actions? I thought if he had come back and immediately apologized, I might have listened, but his dishonesty just made me more and more furious, and I exploded. Enough. First, you squander my money, then get involved with loan sharks, and to top it all off, illegal gambling? You're finished as a person. I was under a lot of stress. It's hard to find a job, and I was feeling insecure. I'm not listening to excuses. Don't mess with me. Don't drag me into this mess. I yelled, and my husband shut his mouth completely. He had nothing to say back, but it seemed like he wasn't even remorseful. If he was, he would have apologized by now. But no apology meant no remorse. Sorry, but I want a divorce, so sign this and just leave. What? Divorce? No way! In this situation, what am I supposed to do alone? That's exactly why I want to cut ties with you. And I'm planning to have your mother come over. What? My mom has nothing to do with this. If you oppose the divorce, who else will be on my side? Of course, I didn't expect my husband to agree to the divorce just like that. That's why I contacted his mother, hoping she would be on my side. Since greeting her at our marriage, I hadn't communicated much with her, but my mother-in-law, unlike my husband, had a sensible disposition. After I explained the situation, she apologized to me several times and immediately took my side. My husband was infuriated that I called his mother, but within 30 minutes, she arrived, creating a 2-against-1 scenario. Do you even realize the extent of what you've done? Causing trouble like this to others. You should be ashamed. Wait a minute. This has nothing to do with my mom. How can it not be related? Regarding the divorce and the money you've misused, you're going to take full responsibility. Well, just excuses. Now be quiet. Sign the divorce papers and pack your bags. We'll talk after we get home. My mother-in-law said, took the divorce papers from me, and went towards my husband. She tried to make him sign, but he stubbornly refused. He knew that divorcing would put him in a difficult position. He probably thought I would sort everything out as long as we didn't divorce. It's naive, but maybe my actions made him think that way. Okay, maybe it's better to call the police then. You were at an illegal casino, weren't you? Wait a minute. Can't we avoid making it a police matter? But you won't agree to the divorce, and you won't leave this house. So, isn't taking you to the police the best option? If the police get involved, you're the one in trouble. Yet, you still insist on having your way? The moment I mentioned the police, his expression froze. He probably didn't expect me to go this far. But I'm saying we're divorcing. Do you think I care what happens to you? If you think that, how carefree can you be? He doesn't understand what he's done or the situation he's in. Why should I clean up after your mess? If you can't take responsibility for your actions, the only option is to call the police. Wait. Please, no police. I'm begging you, seriously, don't do that. You're not working, so what's the problem with being reported to the police? It's not about that. If you keep refusing the divorce, I'll help her calling the police. With my mother-in-law saying that, my husband finally realized he had no allies here. My mother-in-law was helping. I could have unilaterally decided to call the police. If she hadn't intervened, I would have contacted them immediately. And yet, I was really frustrated with this man, but he finally signed the divorce papers. Also, about the money you misused, you'll be returning it. I'll transfer that money immediately, and I'll also cover the loan from the loan sharks. If things continue this way, you'll be troubled. Thank you. But, no matter how many years it takes, I'll recover the money from this fool. We're not planning to just take responsibility and end it here, my mother-in-law said, glaring fiercely at my husband. Knowing my mother-in-law would cover for him, my money would be returned soon, and I wouldn't be targeted by the loan sharks. Also, the fact that she assured me they would diligently recover the funds from my husband gave me peace of mind. If we just let my mother-in-law take responsibility on behalf of my husband, he would live on without facing any punishment, and that was unacceptable. Then my husband packed his things, left the house with my mother-in-law, and I submitted the divorce papers to the city office, finalizing everything. My mother-in-law promptly made the payments, so I had no visits from loan sharks and could continue living in my house without any problems. Did you get divorced from your husband? Yes. It's been quite the ordeal. I'll be continuing to live here, so I hope we can get along well. Likewise, let's be good neighbors. I properly greeted the neighbor afterwards, thanking him for helping me at the last moment and apologizing for any trouble I caused. There were rumors he was unemployed, and I hadn't had the best impression of him, but this experience reminded me not to judge people by their appearances. Later, I heard from my mother-in-law that my husband had started working at a factory owned by one of her acquaintances and is now living with his parents, working hard every day on a modest salary. His salary is entirely devoted to repaying my mother-in-law, leaving him with no disposable income. After such behavior, he shouldn't expect any freedom. I don't know how much interest was on the money he borrowed from the loan sharks or how much he paid back, but it seems he will continue this lifestyle for a few years. My mother-in-law said she would kick him out once he finishes repaying her, and it seems he'll be quitting the factory job around the same time, likely returning to unemployment. How he plans to live nearing 40 and unemployed, I don't know, but, well, it's none of my business. Since then, I've continued living in the same house and have become friends with the neighbor. We go out for meals together on weekends since we're both single and have free time. Even after divorcing my husband, I have my mother, colleagues, and the neighbor. I'm not lonely at all. What's important in life is relationships. And in building those relationships, it's crucial to earn solid trust. Betraying others will always come to light and drive away those who are important. That is why I will continue to live my life so as not to betray my